Guys, happy Friday. Thanks for joining us. You're watching the show for the adventurous wine drinker. We are Igor and Anu. We're the owners and founders of Vinousreverie Wine Merchant out in Walnut Creek, California. We're the show for the adventurous. This is a show for the adventurous wine drinker, and we're the shop for the adventurous wine drinker. So every Friday we do fun little tasting reviews. And this Friday, what are we tasting, Igor?
We are tasting Meyer-Näkel's Pinot Noir from the R.
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 Maybe pirates. Okay,
cool. All right, so, before we get started, I just want to have a little anecdote today at the shop. So, so somebody started buying the store, as I was browsing, we started talking about, wines in general. So it was somebody who's really knowledgeable. You could tell he was knowledgeable about wine. So I... he told me, well, what do you do and stuff like that. He's like, I used to be a sommelier, and now, after the whole thing with COVID over the last year, he started, he looked for a new job, so he's working in a different industry right now. But we started talking about it. He's like, I used to be a sommelier for bird provision. And if you guys are not familiar, it's
Michelin star restaurant, right?
In San Francisco. It's a Michelin star restaurant in San Francisco. So
which I've always wanted to go to, actually. So
yeah. We haven't been, but it's Michelin star, so it's definitely. I
have a gift card somewhere.
Great restaurant. So we were talking about it. He's like, you know what? Your selection is not like other wine shops. It's more like a restaurant wine list. And, I'm like, that's what I was going for. But I actually wanted to correct him. I'm like, it's actually a selection like a Michelin star restaurant, not just any restaurant. So there's quite a distinction between, wine list at a regular restaurant and a Michelin star restaurant. So he recognized some of the older vintages that we have. One spectacular wine, Bars Boucher, of Alsatian producer. I have an older vintage, 2012 Rieslings from them. So it's something that, he started picking up. He picked the Riesling. He picked up Chenin Blanc. These are the grapes that Psalms typically drink. Yeah. The Etna Rossos, the wines that we constantly promote here, like all the time, that maybe if you're a casual drinker, you would not have tried them before. But people in the business that understand wine and tried wines from all over the world, they know where to go to. They know where the great values are, and they know that, you should follow, what's good rather than what's known, which are two significantly, big differences.
Right, yeah. Fight to big marketing is what it is.
Well, yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was just thinking over the last couple of weeks, I'm listening to different aspects of just conversations about wine, or conversations that might not have anything to do with wine, and then for some reason wine jumps into it, and wine is losing PR war. and small artisanal producers, they're even losing it even more. And just a couple of examples that I came across. There was a talk show, a sports talk show, and the guys started talking about bourbon, like bourbons and tequilas and vodkas, and the conversation started going why is tequila so popular, and they were saying George Clooney has got his tequila and stuff like that, and the bourbons are very popular too, and they were talking about other hard liquors, Jameson. I always associate it as cheap alcoholic drink when I was in college, but apparently it's got a facelift. But then they were talking about what they're liking, and one of the commentators, Will Kane, he was a sport commentator, but now I think he's a political talking head.
Okay.
So he started saying, I like this tequila, but I think marketing has something to do with it. And then he started saying how Red Bull. Remember Red Bull gives you wings campaign?
Heard.
So it was tremendously successful. I mean, it made everybody a millionaire. And they're saying it's like, the worst possible drink for you.
Yes, it's terrible for you.
Yeah. So the gist of it, as I was listening to this conversation, is that wine is losing PR war. And part of that conversation, they were already talking about, I'm not really into wine. It's kind of fun. But when I go and sniff it, I can't really tell the difference. And one of the commentators is based in Dallas, and the other one is based in Tennessee. So I don't know where they go wine tasting. You know, do they taste wines from Tennessee and Texas? I mean,
there's some vineyards in Texas, but
there's a lot of vineyards in Texas.
Yeah.
Texas is the second biggest wine growing region
outside
of California. Yeah, it's just not known for producing renowned wines.
I was going to say, I've never heard of Texas wine.
Yeah. And I mean, we know people from Texas who tell it all the time. They're like, yeah, Texas wines are not on par with California wines. So, you know, that was like a little thing. And then, you know, I think CNN also ran an article which kind of, it looked like they were promoting wine because they were talking about the Judgment of Paris from 1976, the famous tasting where California wines defeated some of the most famous wines from Bordeaux.
Yeah.
And then, but the problem with that is they start kind of promoting California wines, and these Napa high-end Napa wines, they're not the ones that want the taste.
Yeah, it's not the same ones.
Yeah, so in one sense, it seems like they're promoting wines, but they're kind of promoting these very expensive and, you know, very mediocre, in my opinion, wines. Mm-hmm. So that, you know, we're trying to do a little different with this show. Obviously, every week we try to bring like a wine region, a grape, or a country that might not be known for the wine world, and the producers that are trying to do something, you know, special, pioneering producers. And you know, it's a tall hill to climb. So, but we're doing it. We're doing it. So, because like I said, wine is losing the PR war, and I think from the examples I gave you, you could see that a lot of these brands, they're highly successful financially. Mm-hmm. But I think it's pretty obvious they're pretty mediocre in terms of quality.
Yeah, well, a lot of them are you know mass produced, and whereas a lot of the stuff we promote are small batch, crafted, you know. So.
And so this is a great example. So I don't know if you want to kind of showcase the bottle first, and I don't know if you want to show your picture.
Oh yeah, let me show my picture. I have to bring it closer because my arms are not that long.
Yes. So while you're showing the picture, I'll talk about. So we talk about Pinot Noir. Or as the Germans call it, Spätburgunder.
So that's the picture of the wine bottle because I know it's flipped on Instagram.
Yeah, it's flipped on Instagram. Yeah. So Meyer-Näkel is the producer, a very famous producer in the R region. We'll get to it in a little bit. And they make a Spätburgunder, which is Pinot Noir. Okay. And just a little overview of Pinot Noir. You know, there's quite a few Pinots: Pinot Blanc, Pinot Gris. But Pinot Noir is the parent of all the Pinots.
Yeah, and how did you describe? I like the word that you used to describe Pinot Noir earlier.
Yeah, capricious. So it's got a mind of its own. So it typically
moody, right?
It's very moody, and it grows in like a small spectrum of cool climates. Mm-hmm. So you know, Burgundy is obviously the most famous place. Russian River, which is actually one of the warmer spots, but you know, Sonoma Coast, Oregon, New Zealand. So these kind of cool climate countries produce quality Pinots, and Pinot doesn't grow in more places than that. I mean, there's very few examples of it. So it's a thin-skinned grape that ripens early, and you need like perfect conditions for it to showcase itself. Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things you typically don't see it in a blend. Typically, Pinots are always 100%. Yeah, to showcase. So, like, you know, Zinfandel is frequently blended. Cabernets are blended all the time. They're actually called Bordeaux blends because they're allowed to be blended with many different grapes. Right. So Pinots kind of stands by itself to showcase itself. So that, you know, I think Pinot, in general, a lot of people know about Pinot Noir. You know, California makes a lot of it. So
it's hard to find them under a certain price point.
Yes.
Good ones, anyways.
And there's many clones of Pinot. So there's over 50 clones. So there is a little variation, but yeah. So I think, you know, maybe we'll jump to the R region.
Oh yeah, can I pull up pictures yet?
Pull up the picture.
Okay,
yes.
Let me pull them up because they're really beautiful.
Yes, and you'll see. All right,
so there's one.
All right. Yes.
It doesn't look real. It's so pretty.
Yes. So show the other picture of the.
Yeah, I'll show them. And so here's this one. This is lovely.
The valley. So it's our valley. So it's mountainous and there's steep slopes. We'll kind of talk about it. I don't know if you want to pull up the map.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
Yeah.
And And okay, here we go. Here's our map.
All right.
You can kind of see the red circle.
Yeah, it's like a little purplish circle to the left middle. So the R region, it's the third smallest region in Germany. So if you could see the little green, we can't see where I'm pointing at, but it's right below. There's like a little green valley. That's the Mosel region, which is the most famous German region and known for Rieslings. So the R is actually they make more Pinot Noirs, and interestingly enough. Many consumers in the US, they didn't even know that Germany makes Pinot Noir. Even though Germany is the third most, they make the third most Pinot Noir of all the countries in the world.
Okay.
So you have Burgundy's number 1, US number 2, and then Germany number 3 ahead of New Zealand.
Wow, ahead of New Zealand.
Ahead of New Zealand. And then on the bottom, at the bottom of the screen, you could see Baden region. That's the most famous, the biggest region that produces Pinot Noir. But the R region, it's actually, there's much fewer producers. So it's probably maybe by the fact that it's so small, but there's so many great wines of the R. Whenever I look at JessieRobinson.com, I kind of use it as a barometer of what's like good anywhere.
Right.
I see so many wines from the R regions that get 18 and a half points.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Which is 95, 96, 97 on a 100-point scale. So it's highly acclaimed wines from that tiny region. It's, like I said, it's the third smallest.
18, she never hands those out.
Yeah. It's spectacular scores. I think we were kind of looking at it. A lot of the I don't know if you want to maybe on the pour for me. I know you already tasted some of it.
Sorry,
Yeah.
never wait.
No, it's good.
I'll pour for you. Your glass is better at showing the color, so I'll do that too. Or unless you want to go ahead and show the color. It's a very dark garnet.
Yeah.
Very dark garnet. And I know that this is a wine show, but guys, I just got to show my roses real fast.
Yes. No, show off.
My garden roses, yeah. So that would be sunset, and I don't know what color this is, fuchsia. But the wine is garnet.
Yeah. And you, I think you already, I'm tasting it right now, but you already tasted it earlier, so you had some notes on it.
Yeah. I would say like a wild blackberry, raspberry, some spices. I don't actually write anything down.
Raspberry bramble, I think you were saying.
Yeah, cloves, anise, maybe a little cinnamon.
A little bit of, so there's a lot of tart fruit. To me, difference between Russian River is frequently I get the raspberry jam.
This is not jam. This is tart fruit.
This is tart fruit.
And spices. And I would say it has kind of like a foresty flavor.
Yeah.
It's very earthy. Yeah.
And it's got a nice tannic structure. So my impression is this wine could still go for quite a few years. And I think once it starts losing the fruit, you'll get a lot more of the mushrooms that you're talking about, the forest floor. That's kind of Burgundian almost like qualities that.
That's what I love about Pinot Noir. I want that forest floor, like savory notes to come out.
Interesting. Maybe a year ago, we had Rocchioli, which is a famous Russian River Pinot Noir producer, and we bought a wine from them, like 2008. So we bought it some time ago, and when we tried it, the fruit kind of disappeared, and only alcohol was left.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it did not age gracefully. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But this one I think will age very nicely because I think it's got a nice tannic core. Even though Pinot Noir is not very tannic great. Once the fruit disappears, you could feel that the earthy notes will appear. So that's those famous ethereal Burgundian Pinots are known for, and are from what I was telling you. I mean, the reputation of some of these producers is really spectacular.
Okay, the R region.
The R region.
Yeah, very cool.
And
AHR, right? So
AHR. And you know what? Another fun thing about the R region that I just found out about a week ago, they make a grape called Fruitburgunder. So what is that grape? It's the Germans call it Pinot Mädelein, and it's a more elegant cousin of Pinot Noir. So it's a Pinot Noir, but there's like a variation.
Why is it more elegant?
Well, I never tried it. That's kind of from what I read, and I don't think it's even imported into the U.S.
Really?
At all. Yeah,
Okay.
I think they just make it in the R region. Yeah, but from what I read about it, it ripens earlier and it has smaller yields. So it's a kind of much more delicate wine.
Okay.
So yeah, that'd be a great wine if somebody could actually bring it into the U.S.
Yes, ideally for my birthday. So.
All right, so. This is a very fun thing. Another cool thing about actually the R region is that these grapes. This comes from the Western R, and it's a lot of slate and volcanic soils. So we frequently talk about how we love wines from volcanic soils, and there's actually not that many Pinot Noirs that are grown on volcanic soils. So this is a pretty cool example of this variety. So
wow,
yeah,
interesting. Yeah, it's delicious.
And I think we can kind of transition to the last part is to the family.
Okay.
Yeah, and
family owned.
It's family owned. Yeah. So two sisters run the show right now, Mikey and Doherty. I think hopefully I'm pronouncing their names correctly. But they have like on their website. It's really. Every page on the website, they talk about the family history. It's all about the family. They say how their grandparents started with a small estate in the 1950s. And they were pioneers in the region because I guess right after World War II, Germany was very... the palate is that they liked sweet wines. Mm-hmm. Not only sweet Rieslings, but actually sweet Pinot Noirs. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the taste of the time. Right. But they were the first ones to make them in a dry style.
Oh, so they were the first.
They were the first in the region, yes. They're pioneers. This is exactly what we were talking about. So when their dad took over, he really took it to the other level. He used to win all the awards from all the major magazines. And as far as I know, there's like maybe 3 renowned producers, but Meyer-Näkel is the one I heard about for a long time. So to me, Meyer-Näkel represents the region. Maybe if we get to see more of the producers, we'll see more of that. But this is it. And the other interesting thing about it, we actually had on our last week's show, Jenna Fields, who's the president of the German Wine Collection, which is the importer that brings in these German wines. And she's based out of LA, so I kind of had to track them down because you cannot find our wines anywhere.
I was going to say, I have never heard of this region. Yeah.
It's tiny it's tiny region.
Right.
I think whatever is exported probably goes to Britain because, the British just get the best wines. And
because they know what's up,
yeah, because they know what's up, yeah. And then so I was able to track her down and get some really fun wines from her. Like last episode, if you guys want to check out last week's show, we were discussing Meyer-Näkel,
which is delicious.
Yeah, it's another alternative white grape to Riesling. It'd be great with Thai food. And she was telling us like about 2% of the vineyards are dedicated to that grape. So it's another tiny production.
Right.
Yeah, but here, the R region, a lot of fun. I'm glad that she was able to bring that in. But interestingly enough, her dad took it to the other level, and now the sisters are running the winery, and they're kind of continuing the tradition. And what's interesting is on our the show that I do with Kevin Wank, everything you ever want to know about wine, but we're afraid to ask. We were discussing California wines versus European wines on our show, on our last episode 7. And he was mentioning how he's the importer. He travels to a lot of these countries. And he was saying how it's family owned. And what's important for them is to maintain tradition. He was saying he goes from family to family. He talks to them. And he said you could see that. It's about maintaining tradition. And when you read their website, that's when I was looking at this, I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what Kevin was telling me. The same experience that he had. And which is interesting contrast because we were talking about what's the philosophy of some of the California wines. And interestingly, Alder Yarrow, I know him as a contributor to JensenRobinson.com, but he has his own very popular blog called Vinousreverie. He's actually based out of Bay Area.
Okay.
He recently did a blog on Napa wines. And here are some of the stats that he threw out. He said that of the 75 wines that he asked for the tasting, so he could write like an assessment, the cabs averaged in price $113. And he was saying that about 25 of the 75 wines that he tasted, he didn't even want to mention them in an article because basically, if you read between the line, they weren't good.
Yeah.
So just think about it. $113 a bottle is not good.
No, I mean, aren't a lot of these Napa wineries corporate owned?
Well, he said that's exactly what I was kind of transitioning into. You beat me to the punch, but it's corporate owned, or you have all these. So Napa used to be known as the playground for the millionaires. Mm-hmm. Well, the millionaires are booted out. Now it's the playground for the billionaires. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the billionaires are coming in and thinking that they're farmers. So they're starting like making these wines on soils, and Kevin actually described it a lot. It's the soils that don't have a lot of minerality. Mm-hmm. California has a lot of sunshine. Yeah. It has a lot of fruit flavors, but there's not a lot of minerality. Mm-hmm. So there are some ideal sites, but a lot of Napa is like farmland. And he was saying that's not really ideal conditions for spectacular wines.
Right, because the vines need to struggle, right? They need to dig deep. Yes. When we talk about slate soil, there's like so many other things.
Yes, so Napa has some very cool volcanic sites, mm-hmm. like Mount Veeder.
We've talked about some small,
pockets. Yes,
pockets, and we've some producers that we know they specialize in their craft, and that's different.
And the same thing, a lot of the corporations, they buy the family names and they pretend that they're still running them as families, even though they start cutting costs of productions and try to increase the price of wine. So that's what mediocrity comes in, but that's part of the PR war. So Napa, is still able to win the PR war because, hey, look, we won the Judgment of Paris. We're better than all the wines in the world. But that's not true. It's absolutely not true. But when the PR war is going in one direction, it's hard to turn it around. So that's what, we have our small shop. We taste these great producers. Highly acclaimed producers. This wine got 94 points from Wine Enthusiast.
94 points. So, you can see it's family owned. They have a legacy. They've been running it since the 1950s. They are dedicated to making a quality product. Yeah. It's that pride in your work. It's something that your family did. So,
and this wine, it's not bargain cheap. It's $40. But think about it in California terms. You have the winery from the best winemakers of the region that got 94 points and sells for $40. That's unthinkable from California. It's laughable. So in that context, it's a spectacular value and delicious wine, and it showcases a region that you can't replicate in California.
I think this would be a really great gift. So if you know someone who loves Pinot Noir and something to introduce them to that's a bit different. So
and absolutely unique, absolutely unique.
So, unique gift, and I just want to drink this all the time, but
I think it's another fun overview. You guys, thank you for joining us. We kind of rambled a little bit about PR. Yes, but we also enjoyed this spectacular wine. So if you guys know anybody who likes the great wines, you know where to send them.
All right, thanks so much, guys. We'll talk to you guys next week. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Bye.